Well, this morning we have a great attendance given that it's 90 degrees out there and we've all been longing for summer. There must be some very good reasons why you've come today, and I believe one of them is Marta. We haven't got our pastor with us, but we have our other pastor with us. Today she's going to come and share something like no one else can share. Marta, it's great to have you to share with your family, and we just ask God for just blessing on you as you speak to us.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So before I'll start, I have some stuff here. I brought this to bring. Can you hear? Yes. Thank you. This is a real one. This is a real call to the concentration camp. It's in pieces. I would in the long run like to give it to Yad Vashem. So I copied everything. If you want to see the originals, please don't take it out of the plastic because it's really falling apart. And here are the rations, not just in normal country, but in the concentration camp Theresienstadt. So it was all very well administratively put down in all the chronics everywhere. Just at the end, the last months, I was still in Yad Vashem looking for the last person from the family. We didn't know what happened with her, and they didn't have it. It means, her name was Erna Adler. She was 16. She was still seen in December, almost at Christmas time, in the window of barrack. But in January, when Russians were liberating Auschwitz, she wasn't alive. And she wasn't, no paper, nothing was found about her. In Yad Vashem, they pulled out 14 Erna Adlers. No one of them was the right one. So, before I even start, I want to say these things are very precious, because all those people who vanished with everything, but also the pictures, of course the jewelry, all that family jewelry, even though my people, like my grandma came back and my mom, were the survivors, the jewelry never came back. But we don't have any pictures of those. It's like, just in our family, it was Adlers, Grinchpans, Elovich, nice, typical names. I know so many about each of that crowd, and I don't have one picture, because when people vanish, of course, all these things vanish too. So, my mom now is losing memory. I am the last one who remembers these stories. It's why I would love to write a book about all that. So, I will start with something for which I am very grateful to the Lord, because He gave me a unique opportunity to look into a very special world which disappeared. Even though I was born after the Holocaust, in the dark times of communism, I had around myself whole congregation of survivors. We were not congregation, we were mishpacha, family. And those were beautiful, unique people, and I lost them almost all because when communism crushed us again, they were disappearing with sunglasses, false papers, because KGB went after them again. By the way, my precious grandma finished in communism in the prison again. Not because she was Jewish, concentration camp survivor, but because she was a Zionist. And, but through that precious grandma, through all those people around me, through even Prague, because Prague is a very special Jewish place. The old city, Jewish city, is so unique. If you have any possibility in the future to go there, there are so many old synagogues. One has all the names of the Czech Jews killed in the war, with date of birth, date of death, everything around you. Just walk and you cannot believe it. You find whole families, grandparents, you look at the dates, fathers, mothers, little children, 2, 3, 4 years old, they all vanished in one day. And another thing was actually Hungary. In Hungary, there was the biggest number of or percent of survivors. My family vanished. They went to Auschwitz in the last year of war in 44. But many in Budapest survived. So still could peek just a little bit in the world which didn't exist anymore. But I lived in it. All my people around me, it was constantly, and I thank God even that I was one big ear and I listened everything from this age. And He wrote it over my heart, the life of each of those precious people. So I found out something special from this age, that these people, for example, my parents, guess how many times I heard them to argue in my life? 0 times. They never argued. Never. How is it possible? Because when you are constantly in that life situation, you value every second of life you have with your dear people. And I found out that that mishpacha, that big family who were not even my relatives really, that they were actually the most faithful and loyal people. They would give life for each other. When I became later Christian, I didn't find that in the church. They also valued very much honor. It wasn't artificial, it was from the heart. Because when you are stripped of everything, not just money and property, but from life and dignity, the honor is the last thing you hold. So they were not lying people there, they were, it was like they didn't have a reason even why to lie. And I never seen compassion and love like that. No rituals, no what is there for me, no denominationalism. Who cared if somebody was progressive or if somebody was, let's say, totally Orthodox Jew? We had it all in our circle. And when a little boy is shot in his mom's arms, you don't ask him, what's your denominational belonging? Of course. So coming into Christian world, I was still yearning. I wanted that. Family, I knew from young years. And I prayed to God, please send me 5 people. And I didn't care if Jewish or Gentiles, but who have that? I call it Jewish heart, but it's the heart filled with the right things. Honor, loyalty, faithfulness, compassion, love, bringing joy to others, bringing constantly good things, peace to others. And I prayed and prayed. I asked for 5. And I think I received much more, many more. And I'm so grateful to the Lord. So I will ask now if I could have the first picture. Thank you. So this is my grandma. And the written there, I think, poem. It's not a poem. It's a song. I wonder if somebody knows that song. You know, it was sung normally in Yiddish, but we see here English translation. I'm not a singer, but I want to tell you something. My grandma survived the concentration camp. I had my mom. She actually raised me because communists took the parents. My father was with one leg constantly in prison. My mom had to work from sunrise to sunset and later even. So I was raised by grandma, and that was nothing punishing. And she actually survived the concentration camp. Her husband didn't go to concentration camp. He received that too, to go, but he had such a bad health that he knew that the same day he would arrive, he would be gone. So he was in hiding the way that every 14 days he changed place, and they went after him. They knocked on different places, and he always managed to disappear. And he survived the war. He came back, they saw each other, but he was so sick, the doctors tried to help. For 8 months they kept him in the hospital alive, but then he passed away. But before he passed away, he put a beautiful advertisement in the newspaper. Any outlets, any Grinch fans, any Elovich, and any friends of all these, if you are out there, please come to the street Napožiči 11, that's the place, and 3 times knock, whatever was the code, and we will connect. And they came, the single survivors, they lost whole families. I call them uncles and aunts, and we were really like a family, but they were like Elovich. That family were in-laws of cousins, and they were cousins of those. So there was no blood even connection. But they were what I described, that was that type of people. They were all young because people who had any gray hair went right away with Mengele pointing to the gas. My grandma, it was a miracle. She was very athletic. She didn't have any gray hair. She worked like crazy. She had to. She survived. Otherwise, she was exception because she was 40. All the other who survived were like my parents. My mom was 10 when the war started. When the war finished, she was a young teenager. They were not anchored in faith like my grandma. Grandma was a rabbi's daughter. She was a believer, like I could still learn from her, thinking of her sometimes in different situations. Little E-face, she was the example. While the young generation, the majority of young people who came back, were uprooted from the faith because they never actually really lived in the full community with the knowledge, and they remembered something, but they were not still formed by that. So this song is beautiful, and the people sometimes sang it, young people, during Shabbat. And the tears were just really pouring. And I'll try just the beginning, maybe, but you can do better. I'll sing it normally we sing it like my Yiddish mame, but it's in English, I'll try English. My Yiddish mame, I miss her more than ever known. My Yiddish mame, I long to kiss that wrinkled brow. It's difficult. One of those young men, his name was Yankele, was a son of a cantor. So he just started and everybody cried. But then, and this is the heading of this, we shall live and not die. They cleaned the tears, and they were the most optimistic, most joyful people I ever met, including my grandma. She was really number one. Every morning she woke up with tears, cleaned them, and not just that she would be joyful, she constantly brought joy to others. That was her life task, because she was alive and she claimed it, and God gave her the grace to do that. So that's my precious grandma, who was more like my mom. This is in year, next picture please. This is in year 1925. She was a young girl, beautiful rabbi's daughter. And she was supposed to marry a rabbi in Germany. And there was a matchmaker. It's like from the, on the roof, yes. And there was negotiation about the dowry. And because Rabbi had 11 children, the dowry wasn't big enough, I think, for the rabbi in Germany. I'm not sure if he didn't like too much to speak about that. The negotiation prolonged and prolonged. And she always said, and that saved my life. She wouldn't survive. No one of her children would survive in Germany, because it started there much sooner, and time was such a big factor in surviving possibility. So here she is, and she actually was something. She fell in love with Joseph, and he fell in love with her, but the family didn't put it together. It's really like from that movie. So, uncle, rich millionaire uncle of her, they got married. This is the wedding picture. It was done secretly. And they bribed the newspaper reporter that he will not put it into the newspapers. Oh, I guess the bribe from young people wasn't big enough. He put it there. And Uncle Adler, the millionaire, was reading his newspapers. And then he saw it, and he immediately called a lawyer. Dismiss this marriage in one day. The young people said no, but surprisingly, parents of Ivanka, my grandma, said no. Joseph, yes, it's not, no negotiation were done, no whatever. It's not the proper channel. They decided for. But that young man has beautiful heart. And Rabbi Abraham Adler said, love for God and love for others is the most valuable thing. So they stayed married. And next picture, please. This is a very precious picture. It's just a few days before the war started. The bigger child is my mom, their daughter. And it started so quickly that there were just 2 cars possible for escaping. One was the Red Cross, and all my mom's cousins and whoever was in that car, and she and her father couldn't get there, and he of course wouldn't, because the women and children were more important. 7 people were in the regular car, and he somehow got, after months, to the destination too. And the Red Cross car was intentionally bombed, and in 1 second she lost half of her closest family. They survived. They were in Kriva Uchustu. That was a known place for Czechoslovakian army, and they were under their protection, and they got them through Romania to Czechoslovakia. My mother learned how to bake bread in Romanian, and they were very nice, way better, really. And can I have next picture? And they arrived to Czech Republic, Moravia, happy that they survived, and that in 2 weeks Hitler took over. And my mom doesn't look very gentle. So they made a story that they are Hungarian to protect themselves. But unfortunately the papers and everything said different story. She had the Jewish rations. That time she was preteen, still very young. And how did they survive? So grandma had to go to the Theresienstadt, and because she was very athletic, very strong, then she was asked to work in the factory where they were doing parts of aircraft, and she was good, so they kept her alive sometime. And her husband, because he had bad health, as I said, he every 14 days had to change place. A number of times Gestapo went after him, and Czech police actually warned him, and he always changed place. Well, my mom went through something incredible. She was also in hiding, but different way. My grandfather, her father, moved her to very east of Moravia, into very insignificant village. They said that they are Hungarians. And one friend knew what it was about and his family. She couldn't use her rations because there was the star. Everybody would know. They hid it. And she was living whole war just from what people gave her. And she even went to school. That wasn't allowed for Jewish kids to attend school. But she had to travel 3 hours by train, so nobody really knows her there. Attended high school later even. And sometimes had overnight sleep with friends where she could eat, and that's why she survived. At the end they found her. She still had very bad nerves because every day in the school she was afraid that when the radio was calling for special attention, she thought they are going after her. They didn't. And at the end, totally at the end of the war, they found her. She had to go to concentration camp, but she didn't. The cousin of that nice friend in that village hid her, and the Russians were already coming from east, so she survived. Now, because when they arrived to Czech Republic and Hitler came, they wanted my mom to be in safer place. So they actually negotiated with one of the grandmas, her mother's brother, with one uncle, that she would go to Yugoslavia to be safe. And when all was done, the last thing before grandma went to concentration camp, she said, let's cancel it, I have a bad feeling about it. And they canceled it. That whole family and the whole Jewish community there was taken to the river. All were killed. All the uncle's name was Shandor, it's Alex, and all fell into river, and the river was just full of blood. My mom wouldn't survive that. It was a miracle, and I think that God revealed that to Grandma's heart. Let's cancel it. And they did. And next picture is one survivor from the family Mordecai, my uncle Mordecai. He was such a nice young man, girls always. I don't remember it so well, very little, but girls liked him. He survived because he ran actually to Yugoslavia and he fought against Nazis there. And he was shot, he was whatever, but he survived. And he was very seriously injured a few years after war because of new anti-Semitism. It's not so well known in Poland and some other places. After war, there was another big anti-Semitic wave against those few survivors. And he was badly injured into head, and he was brought to Prague to hospital. He survived. They did beautiful surgery. He packed everything and said, I'm going to Israel. And he needed, and there was no Israeli. He needed bride for that because there was numbers. They couldn't cross it. So it was just artificially put together, the marriage, so they can enter the Holy Land. Yeah, but somehow they fell in love. It wasn't a real marriage, but it became a real marriage, and they had 3 children. And the youngest served in Israel in the army, and then he went for a trip to New York, and he was ran over with scar. He survived the service in Israel. He was hit in an accident. But I have still cousin, and when I have a family reunion, here is my grandma with her siblings, 11 kids. Some had already adult children with grandchildren. Here, the Rabbi Adler had brother, the one who was angry when he read newspapers. He had 7 children, 6 boys and 1 girl. That's only cousin I have. The daughter of this man, and she has 2 daughters. So we have family reunion. 3 years they came here, and it was Eva, Chava, me, my husband, her daughter, and that was it. And my parents, of course. And nobody spoke other people's language almost. It was, I had to translate, and the daughter knew a number of languages, so we were all translating from English to Czech to Hungarian. She translated to Hebrew, Hebrew. It was like, we had a nice conversation. And his mother actually, and his 4 siblings all died. His mother died in Auschwitz. That day, Mengele, Dr. Mengele, of course, did that. And because his mother was not feeling well, she went the other way. His only sister, he had other brothers, but 1 sister went for her. But because mom was so sick, that girl was barely 20. She asked Dr. Mengele, could I accompany my mom? She really doesn't feel well. And he said, be my guest. The same day they were killed in gas chambers, they were burned, and the survivor was my grandma's youngest sister, Jolana, and she told all this, what happened there. That 20-year-old girl went with her mother into a gas chamber, was burned, and the same evening, Jolana, it was everywhere. They had to breathe it, the ashes, but also her beloved husband. He had diabetes. He went over there. While she was strong, he went there. She had to breathe the same evening the ashes of her beloved husband. And they were so young. She never had children. And next picture is my grandma after the war, surviving everything, but widow, and she, even in 50s, and even sometimes at the beginning of 60s, we learn all these stories. It was coming. She lost husband, she lost all the family. My mom lost all her schoolmates. Like, even now I know the stories of, you like Weiss and whoever, they all were gone. So you can see how sad she was, but then she said, we didn't die, we shall live. And God gave them all grace to live fully. Sometimes I think we cannot whine. If these people were not just joyful, but they mainly brought joy to others. And this picture, next one please, is my mom and my father in very, very short time of free time in Prague. It was just barely 3 years, barely 2.5 years of freedom. And they were blossoming because Grandma said, we will live. They lived. She was actually, my mom was artist and she was also model. My father was skydiver, paratrooper, and in 47 he trained Haganah in North Czech Republic, just in time for the new state. My mom was cheerful young lady. Now, 1 year later, the communists took over. And can I have the next picture, please? And where is the joy? God, she's still beautiful, but we were crushed right away. There were hanging people everywhere, even non-Jews. Wonderful young leader of conservative party was killed by hanging. She had 5-year-old daughter only, Milada Horáková. And my mom was so angry that she took her handkerchief and tore it in pieces. It came to us too later. My grandma went to Yom Kippur, to synagogue. Somebody announced it. Next day they came for her. She went to the prison. And it was for Zionism because we had that group of wonderful Jews. But they were now at this time disappearing as much as they could. Some made it even to Israel, some to different places in the world, because the East Europe was like in wartime again. And I was taken from the family. I was returned when the worst was over and I didn't know my first name. I looked at the mirror and I said, look, that's Hekla, my last name. I didn't know that I was Marta. And as a gift, I was injected as many other kids with different things into leg. One of the things was tuberculosis, one of the things was similar like mouse and, how's it called, that cows had that. 10 horrible sicknesses. And my parents saw that I'm not okay, and they had to find a private doctor to discover this. He risked his, again, going to prison, his life on all this. He discovered what it is. I make it short. They had to cut the whole muscle. I was healing for years. wanted to study medicine. I couldn't because I was still very sick. And my mom said, I cannot bring more children into this world, so I'm only child. And I was committed to be healthy. Grandma helped me. I bought skates and I skated in winter to get stronger, and it worked. And of course, God did that. May I have the next picture? This is after years. And this is on the left side. It's with our sisters. My grandma on the right side. Beside her on the left side is Joanne. She was in Auschwitz and she brought the knowledge what happened to each of the people. And at least what she knew. And she was found in January when 45, when Russian soldiers were liberating Auschwitz in a pile of dead bodies, and they were already bulldozering them. And she moved like that, hanged. She was in coma, but moved somehow, hanged. He noticed, he pulled her out, they airlifted her to the hospital for 3 months. She was fighting for life. She survived. And I had beautiful summers in Hungary. Every year I enjoyed that very much. Grandma, she was a Czech lady. They actually changed their names, many of them. The Weisskopf became White, and whatever, so we fit in. And when I was 16, I had to promise that I will never tell again. But imagine they represent 11 and 7, those old sisters, 11 and 7 other siblings. Joanne never had children after the concentration camp. She was barren, she remarried but couldn't have children, and that was her fatal name. And this is my mom above them. That's the one who survived in hiding. And last picture, please. And this is already me. I was only child who was there after all this. My only cousin was in Israel at that time. And she later actually served on Golan Heights in that year. Wow. But she now lives in Europe. And I want to emphasize that all these people who came back, and they had horrific stories, they were so dedicated to live. They laughed, they danced, they wouldn't back up because why would they lie or try to, please somebody? They had, they were with practically everything engraved already. People like that value heart, value loyalty, value faithfulness, peacefulness, and joy. And I'm always praying that God will make me like that, because they were such a good example. God had to pump them with that full life. And they said, we survived, and they were daring, we will live fully, and they all did. Thank you.